We are here on DSP, Lions training camp, still rolling along, just wrapped up day 2. But for all of the good, positive things that are going into the season for this team, many changes, new coordinators, new starters on the offensive line, and this team already dealing with injuries. Ennis Rakestraw left practice on Sunday with a chest injury, but Dan Campbell said that he should be okay. But the big one, Levi Onwuzurike, who just signed a contract extension in the offseason, is out for the year with an ACL. That's on top of Aleem McNeil also recovering from an ACL injury. First of all, it's terrible news for him because he's dealt with so many injuries in his career. Looked like he was turning a corner last year. But where does this put the Lions' defensive line, a spot that was pretty injured last year, pretty much throughout the entire season?
Yeah, for me, this is more of a depth injury than like a, wow, you can't afford to lose this guy injury. It's something that, like, if they were to lose another defensive tackle, I really think they would feel this more. But yeah, I mean, the Lions, it seems like as much as they try to bulk up the D-line, they just keep losing guys. And how many more can you take? You're getting Aiden Hutchinson back, and you're starting to wonder, like, are we ever actually going to get a chance to see this entire unit all at full health?
I agree. I mean, it's definitely a hit to the depth of the defensive line. It's not like not really a starter, but could be a starter. But
at this point, he was. But at this point, with Aleem dealing with an injury,
right,
he was in line to be a starter.
For sure.
So that's it. To me, that's where the impact is going to be felt, which makes it much more than just a quote-unquote depth piece for me. Because if we're looking at Aleem McNeil, if we're going by averages, usually it takes a year-ish to recover from an ACL. He hurt it late in the season last year. Maybe November he's back. Maybe, hypothetically.
Yeah,
you were going to be relying on Levi a lot.
Yeah. I don't know. You know, the defensive line is lives and dies with Aiden Hutchinson to me. So, you know, the pieces around him, they're going to change a lot. But if Hutch is Hutch, they're going to be, you know, a force to be reckoned with.
I don't think that Levi Onwuzurike on his own is like a difference-making player. I think he's a fine fill-in when you're down Aleem McNeil, but if the Lions, if all things go the way they're hoping, get to the playoffs and they've got everybody else healthy, I don't think Levi Onwuzurike is like a massive loss. Where it becomes a massive loss is if Aleem McNeil doesn't fully recover, or if he comes back and tweaks something, or if they lose someone somewhere else. Then you're starting to pull guys off the street again.
If they lose DJ Reader, that is going to be the big one. I asked Dan Campbell earlier today about it, and he said, thank God we have DJ Reader because he gives you a lot of comfort because he can play so many different positions on that defensive line, in those interior spots.
And luckily, they spent their first-round pick on the interior defensive line.
That's another guy that he can mentor. So that's going to be your 1-2 punch at defensive tackle right now. And then they got Roy Lopez, a great rotational depth piece. So, I mean, for those top 3 spots right now, I think they'll be okay. But beyond that, that only increases the need to stay healthy.
Yeah, for sure. You've already used one of your injury mulligans, and you're 2 days into camp is the way that I look at it. So it's just like it's a bad way to get started.
I feel like that's the bigger hit to me. Is just like starting camp with a defensive injury, a year ender. It was just coming off of last year. You just don't want to see that.
That being said, we've addressed the defensive line, but looking at the offensive line, in camp right now, you have Graham Glasgow on the right side. You have Tate Ratledge taking center snaps, and then you have Christian Mahogany at left guard. That's how it's been so far early on in camp. Which gives you more concern at this point? And I feel like we use the word concern a lot talking about the Lions lately. But which gives you more concern, the offensive line or the defensive line early in camp at this point?
The offensive line for me, for sure.
Still.
Yeah. Just because the Lions I think the reason they've been able to shoulder all of these blows throughout the last couple of years injury-wise is because they've had that offensive line. And it's a unit that doesn't really slump. It's a unit that you can rely on. And really probably the reason that Jared Goff has looked like, a top-tier quarterback the last couple of years. So you're just naming all those guys, and I'm just shaking my head like I don't know at all what the Lions are going to get from them, and I don't know what they're going to get from Taylor Decker. So I'm just like that whole unit is the X factor for sure for me.
I think finding out how big of a role Frank Ragnow played on this offense is going to be very telling, especially early on in the season. That Goff Ragnow battery sort of thing, baseball reference there
Good
for
stuff.
you, was so integral to every part. I mean, like reading the coverages, changing plays, like all that stuff, that relationship that you have, that consistency, they're going to have to rebuild that. I mean, it's a big piece of that offensive line.
I mentioned earlier today, just standing on the sidelines, like that's going to be big because Tate Ratledge, if that's where he stays, unless they rotate Graham Glasgow in, he's going to be Jared Goff's second set of eyes the moment that huddle breaks.
Yep.
Like
Crazy.
you have to turn your back and you start diagnosing immediately. That's a lot for somebody to take, let alone somebody who didn't play center in college.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously it's within the realm of possibilities that this is a very good offensive line, right? Just 2 years ago, Decker and Glasgow were both very good players.
Yeah.
And, Ratledge is a high pick. Mahogany has shown some good things when he's been thrown in there. So I'm just skeptical of all four of, or even more, half of those things all, going out to their best case scenario. So that's what gives me pause.
And Decker said as much today. He said, somebody was asked him, like, how do you go about being a leader for this offensive line? Because he's not at practice yet. Should be after the Hall of Fame game is what Dan Campbell said. But he was asked, like, how do you go about leading this group? And he said, well, the standard is the standard. And that's what we have to live up to. We have created that expectation here. So no matter who's in there, that's what we have to live up to continue being one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. So it's no secret. They're understanding that there are questions, and they have to prove people wrong.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
I think if you told me that this is going to be a top 15 offensive line in the NFL, I would sign up for that. Whereas in the past few years, it's been probably one, two, three. Yeah. So right now, it's just be above average. I think that's where you got to start.
No, man. Don't say that.
I feel like Derek always says something, and the kid is like,
"No, man. Come on."
I'm just helping you out, man. I'm getting you ready.
They have to figure out how to keep that running game elite, because that is everything.
Yeah.
To that team, to that offense, and to Jared Goff specifically. That's what I'm most worried about with the offensive line. Can they run the ball like they did last year? I don't know.
I would be stunned if they can, as well as last year. Yes,
Right.
without Frank Ragnow.
You're right.
a lot of zone. There you go. Seriously,
Yep,
like,
you're right.
like
Yes.
Panay
Well, you already
Sewell,
heard they're lining Jahmyr Gibbs up in the slot a lot in early practice or whatever. So we'll see what they got up their sleeves.
Yeah.
We shall see what John Morton has up his sleeve as he takes over as the offensive coordinator. Still more to come on DSP. Derek, your time to shine. The Tigers returning from the All-Star break. However, it looked great. It looked great Sunday night. But before that,
Not so good.
not so good. Still, this team, one of the best in baseball. We'll dive into that when we return on DSP.